Dag mooie jongen. Hello, my name is Vandeputte. I'm a time-lapse photographer in London. This is all about time-lapse travel and tutorials. GoPro Labs is a new platform by GoPro. What a surprise. It allows you to experience some of the developers' experimental features that haven't made it into the final cut or into the final product. GoPro's website says that some of these functions were developed at internal hackathons where I guess developers come up with new ideas, which is pretty cool. To get access to these features, you need to install a custom firmware, which is you just download a zip file and then put it on the memory card and install it in the GoPro. It takes less than a minute and it's super easy. It's currently only available for the GoPro Hero 8 camera, and honestly, nothing really changed when you install it, except that now when you point it to a certain QR code, it reads it as an instruction. Pretty much this QR code that I'm sure we're all familiar with gets read and then gets translated into a custom setup of settings. One of the first things I did with this new firmware is install my username to pop up on screen when you power it on. This works even without a memory card and is incredibly useful for when you don't have any personal data on there for when you lose your GoPro, which happens a lot when you're skiing or surfing or whatever. The fact that you don't have to take a photo of your name and address or whatever, you can just load it in the camera is honestly pretty darn useful. But let's be honest, they should have been included in the GoPros for a while now, but I'm happy we get to do it. In this video, I'm going to talk you through some of the new features that you get access to using GoPro Labs on the Hero 8 that are relevant to time-lapse photographers. So, how does this all work? Once you've installed the new firmware, you simply go to a website called GitHub, which is where a lot of coders hang out, I guess. I've seen GitHub pass by a lot when I'm looking into technical issues for like my WordPress website or whatever, but pretty much there is a GoPro page. Let me just cut to a screen recording of this. This is the GoPro QR control page, and straight off the bat you can see that it comes with example pre-built commands such as precision date and time, so your camera is super accurate. This is useful if you want to sync multiple cameras together. There is start a 24-hour long time-lapse or greater with extra long time-lapses. I'll go over those in a second. Pretty much what you do is you set your settings and just look at what you can set. All these parameters that you can expand like so. Everything you click on here changes this QR code. I now point my camera to this QR code and boom, it recognizes the code and installs the settings on the camera. I don't know what I just did, but you see how fast that works, right? It's really, really damn cool. So let's talk about some specific time-lapse features that are now available. As I mentioned, extra long time-lapses with intervals much bigger than 60 seconds. So the Labs firmware allows for much longer time-lapses on the internal battery alone, and the way this changes, or the way it does it differently, is it powers down the camera completely in between photos, which allows you, let's see, a fully charged Hero 8 can take around 400 photos, which you can spread over several hours or several days for long form time lapses. Here's the thing they tested. The fact that you can go 150 photos over a 40-day time lapse is really quite impressive. It also comes with a calculator, number of days and number of hours, which gives you an estimated frames and amount of playback, etc. Very cool. What else is there? Time-lapse sunsets and sunrises. This uses the built-in GPS to figure out where you are in the world and what time the sun sets. You can figure out when to start before the sunset and when to end it. Same goes for the sunrise, and you can repeat that. Once again, you just adjust the settings like so. Point the camera at the QR code. Boom. Registered. Awaiting GPS lock. Press button to cancel. Very cool. What else is there? Motion detection, I guess that's not really for time-lapse. Personalize your cameras with owner information, which is what I did. Larger chapter sizes, so instead of being limited to a 4 GB file size, you're now limited to a 12 GB file size. With the construction time-lapse, it allows you to shoot photos only during certain times of day, which is very useful because then it's not shooting through the night as well. I really like seeing these types of things pop up in firmware, even if it is experimental and not accessible for everyone unless you have a Hero 8 and install the custom firmware. It's just a sign that more manufacturers are taking time-lapse photography more seriously, and I think, you know, in the long run this will result in us seeing some really innovative, cool, groundbreaking footage potentially. I'm waiting on another piece of kit to come in, which is a dedicated time-lapse camera which has a macro mode, so hopefully I'll get to experiment with that. And you know, there's all this cool stuff happening. Firmware, we've seen it on other cameras, we've seen on the Lumix. Canon's got, you know, the holy grail video time-lapse mode that they when is it? With the 6D Mark II, I think they launched it, or previously, before the 6D Mark II. You know, they've taken it more seriously, and that's good for us people that love time-lapse. I watched this video that my friend Rob Mullally sent me from another channel that went over the GoPro Labs firmware in more detail and how to set it up, and he's got great examples of what other stuff you can do. For example, you can trigger it to start shooting after a certain speed. So if you're going for a speed record and you want to just capture that, you can set it to, you know, start recording when you hit 30 k's an hour or whatever, and then stop recording. As I mentioned, it is completely customizable with all these settings, and you just load it into the camera by pointing it at the screen. I think it's fantastic. I hope to see much more of this stuff in future cameras, and hopefully some of these make it into the mainstream, the normal firmware as well, so more people get access to it without having to install an extra firmware. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions about this quick, short little video about GoPro Labs and the new time-lapse features, let me know. And if you want me to do a proper video about the GoPro Hero 8 in which I test it out and review it and talk about its built-in time-lapse functions, please let me know so I know what you guys want to see, pretty much. Any other suggestions, let me know as well. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're having a fantastic day or night wherever you may be, and I hope to see you on the next video. Goodbye.